In 1900, New York was a city of two worlds. While the Gilded Age lit up Fifth Avenue a few blocks away, millions lived in the filthiest homes in American history. Welcome to the human hive of the Lower East Side. This was the most densely populated place on the planet, a pressure cooker of industry and decay. Inside, the architecture of greed took over. Windowless hallways hid the reality of families living 10 to a room in spaces smaller than a modern closet. Chapter 1. The Immigrant Tide. Daily, thousands arrived at Castle Garden with no money and nowhere to go except the tenements. They were funneled into the only housing they could afford. Rents were high because demand was infinite, creating a goldmine for slumlords. To survive, they took in lodgers. Privacy didn't exist. Beds were never cold, as workers rotated in shifts to sleep in the same cramped corners. Chapter 2. The Stench of Death. Sanitation was a myth. Overflowing privies and horse manure created a toxic soup that seeped into the homes. Outside, the streets were open sewers. In the summer heat, the stench was unbearable and the air was thick with the flies of decay. Disease was the master of these buildings. Tuberculosis, the white plague, spread through the damp, sunless rooms like wildfire. Chapter 3. The Airshaft Trap. Architecture itself became a weapon. Even the windows meant for air were useless. These shafts acted as giant chimneys, funneling the smells of the privies directly into every apartment. They were also lethal fire traps. A spark in the basement could incinerate an entire block in minutes. As the air shafts breathed life into the flames, many died on the fire escapes. Chapter 4. The Kitchen Factory. Home was also the factory. Sweatshop work moved into the living rooms to save on overhead. Families worked 16-hour days for pennies. They breathed in fabric dust and lead fumes, turning their sanctuary into a site of slow poisoning. Childhood ended early. By age 5, many were carrying coal or helping with the never-ending piecework from the factories. Chapter 5. The Forgotten Children. For the young, the tenement was either a prison or a playground of peril. Play meant the fire escape. They found joy in the muck, but the toll was heavy. In the summer heat, the tenements became ovens. 1 in 10 babies wouldn't survive. Infant mortality was a constant shadow. Families were forced to choose between the cost of a doctor and the cost of food. The result was tragic. Chapter 6. The Flash of Truth. It took a man with a camera and a conscience to finally show New York the truth. Jacob Riis. Riis used new flash technology to illuminate the darkest corners. His photos didn't just document poverty, they screamed for reform. The wealthy saw the squalor. The public was horrified. The images of Riis and reformers like Lillian Wald began to turn the tide against the powerful slumlords. We're uncovering the real history of the city. If you find these stories essential, hit that subscribe button to support our work. Chapter 7. The Tenement House Exhibition of 1900. Reformers built models to show the public exactly how these death traps functioned. They used poverty maps where red indicated the areas of most intense squalor. The data was undeniable. The city was rotting from within. Chapter 8. The Currency of Corruption. Why did this last so long? The answer was Tammany Hall and the political bosses. Every bribe meant another year of dark halls and broken pipes. The people were the currency of the bosses, exchanged for power and turkeys. The bosses provided coal to the poor, but in exchange, they ensured the landlords weren't bothered by building inspectors. It was a perfect system. Chapter 9. The Settlement Hope. Against the bosses stood the settlement houses. Places like the Henry Street settlement offered health and light. Lillian Wald and Florence Kelley led the charge. They didn't just study poverty, they lived in it, proving that change was possible through community. They fought for public baths. For millions who had no indoor plumbing, these temples of cleanliness were the only way to maintain dignity. Chapter 10. The Law of Light. In 1901, the Tenement House Act was passed. It mandated light, air, and indoor plumbing for all. Architecture could no longer be a death sentence. The new buildings were designed around light courts, ending the era of the suffocating air shaft. The transformation was slow. For decades, the old tenements remained, but the era of the unregulated slum was finally drawing to a close. The legacy of the tenements is the resilience of those who survived them. From these dark halls came the next generation of leaders. They carried the memory of the filth as a fuel for their ambition. They became doctors, lawyers, and artists who built the New York of today. New York was built on the backs of those who suffered in the Lower East Side. Their diverse voices are the foundation of this city. Conclusion. The legacy of filth. To forget the tenements is to forget the true cost of the American dream. we must remember the darkness. Today, the Lower East Side is a place of luxury, but look closely at the brickwork and you'll still see the scars of 1900. History never leaves. We owe it to the millions who died alone in these rooms to tell their story. Their resilience is our real heritage. Music swells. Stay curious, stay empathetic. History is more than just dates, it's lives. Goodbye. Archaeologists still find the physical artifacts of failure. A broken toy, a glass medicine vial, tangible links to lives that 1900 tried to erase. Every shard tells a story. What do you leave behind when you move on? These are the fossils of the pioneer dream in the urban jungle. Modern historians are re-evaluating these sites. We are moving away from great men and toward a social history of the average worker. This new understanding reveals a West that was complex, diverse, and deeply tragic. We are giving a voice to the silenced. We are finally recognizing the true cost of our cities. The story of 1900 is the story of us all. Music swells to peak. The sun rises on a city that is forever marked by the struggles of the past. A history written in dust and blood. Music peaks. Seek the truth always, because in the end, that is the only thing that sets us free. Goodbye. New York is a city of ghosts. If you walk the streets at dawn, you can still hear the human hive. Music fades. Music fades out. Silence. Chapter 11. The Anthropology of the Tenement. Beyond the architecture and the laws, there was a specific culture, a set of daily rituals that allowed the human spirit to survive. The kitchen was the heart of this anthropology. Rituals of cooking and cleaning were performed with a meticulous care that defied the surrounding squalor. It was an act of resistance. The stoop and the street were the extensions of the living room. Here, social hierarchies were established, and the wisdom of the old world was passed to the new. A complex social dance in the dirt. These rituals of dignity, the polished shoes, the clean white laundry, were the tools of survival. They were the way these families told the world that they were still human, despite the filth. We carry these anthropological echoes today. Every time we find community in a crowded space, we are using the lessons learned in the human hives of 1900. Our heritage is one of resilience. The tenements are a mirror that never ages. How we house our most vulnerable today is the truest measure of our progress since 1900. The story of the Lower East Side is still being written in every city on Earth. The human hive may be gone, but its spirit remains in the bricks and the air. New York is built on these ghosts. If you listen, you can still hear them. Music reaches its peak. A history written in dust and blood, but also in hope and endurance. The sun rises on a world that remembers. Music swells to peak. Seek the truth always, for it is the only path to the light. Thank you for walking this road with us. Goodbye. Silence. Music swells. Music fading. Silence. 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 Silence.